Be me, earnest, mid-30s, creeping up, senior dev at a solid mid-tier tech company. The job checks all the boxes: reliable pay, problems worth solving, coworkers who don't make life harder than it needs to be. I keep to myself. Headphones on, minimal razgovora, just clearing tasks and moving on. No interest in office games or climbing over people, just writing clean code, drinking too much coffee and watching the paycheck hit. Honestly, that setup worked for me. And for the longest time, the company ran on that same logic: performance mattered. Deliver results, you move up. Fall behind, you don't last. Straightforward system. Our HR department was run by a woman who was a few years from retirement. She was a nice lady, mostly just processed payroll and made sure the fire extinguishers were up to code. Nobody ever really thought about HR. It was just a background function, like the electricity or the plumbing. Then she retired. The CEO sent out a company-wide email thanking her for her service and announcing they were bringing in a new director of human resources to modernize our corporate environment. A few of us in the engineering department kind of shrugged. Modernize? What? Are we getting better coffee? Standing desks? None of us had any idea what was coming. A few weeks pass. The new HR director is announced. Her name is Marjorie. Her welcome email includes a professional headshot. She has that very specific, severe haircut and a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. The email is full of corporate buzzwords: synergy, paradigm shift, proactive engagement, fostering inclusivity. It reads like it was written by a machine that was fed every bad LinkedIn post from the last 5 years. I delete it and get back to debugging a memory leak. Not my department, not my problem. The first sign of trouble comes a week later. An all-hands meeting is called, mandatory attendance. The CEO gets up on the small stage in our main conference room. He looks a little uncomfortable. He gives a short, awkward speech about the company's future, and then introduces Marjorie to talk about the new cultural initiatives. Marjorie steps up to the podium. She's wearing a pantsuit that looks more expensive than my car. She scans the room with that same non-smile. She starts by talking about how honored she is to be here, to help guide us into a more equitable and forward-thinking future. I'm already tuning out, thinking about a recursive function I'm stuck on, but then the words she's using start to cut through my daydreaming. She's not talking about business, she's talking about society. She's using phrases like patriarchal structures and unconscious bias in tech. In a corporate meeting, a few of the other engineers are exchanging glances. The marketing department seems to be eating it up. She clicks to the next slide in her presentation. The title is The Trust and Safety Initiative. Sounds harmless enough. Marjorie explains that to build a truly safe and inclusive workplace, we need to reevaluate how we handle interpersonal conflicts. She says that historically, corporate structures have failed to protect the most vulnerable members of the team. Then she says it. The core tenet of the new policy is a simple one: believe all women. She doesn't use those exact words, of course. She buries it in layers of HR speak. It's framed as, we will proceed with the presumption that the report of any female-identifying employee is made in good faith and is an accurate reflection of their experience. She goes on to explain that any accusation made by a woman against a man will be considered true by default. The burden of proof, she explains with a triumphant gleam in her eye, is now on the accused to prove his innocence. A cold silence falls over the room. You can physically feel the air pressure change. Every man in that room, from the interns to the senior VPs, just had the floor drop out from under him. One of the older guys from the sales team, a guy who's been with the company for 20 years, raises his hand. He asks, "So, just to be clear, if a complaint is made, there's no investigation before action is taken? It's just automatically believed?" Marjorie gives him a look that could curdle milk. She says that questioning a woman's lived experience is a form of silencing, and that this company will no longer be a part of that toxic cycle. She says the investigation is about determining the consequences for the perpetrator, not about verifying the victim's truth. He slowly lowers his hand, a stunned expression on his face. The message is crystal clear. Men are guilty until proven innocent, and there is no mechanism to prove innocence. The meeting ends a few minutes later. Nobody claps. We all just file out of the room in silence. The atmosphere in the office is never the same again. The very next day, the change is palpable. The usual morning banter by the coffee machine is gone. It's replaced by a quiet, efficient line of people getting their coffee and immediately returning to their desks. The men are terrified. I see a junior manager walk over to a female employee's desk to ask a question about a report. He physically stands a good 5 feet away from her desk, like it's radioactive. He keeps his hands clasped behind his back the whole time. The conversation is brief, formal, and he practically sprints back to his own cubicle. Lunch tables self-segregate. The men all sit together, or eat at their desks. The women sit together. The easy mixed group camaraderie we used to have is just gone. Collaboration dies. Instead of walking over to a female colleague's desk to hash out a problem on a whiteboard, male engineers now send a long, carefully worded email, seeing their own manager for protection. Every interaction is now a potential liability. A joke could be verbal harassment. A compliment on a new haircut could be unwanted attention. A disagreement in a meeting could be creating a hostile environment. Productivity starts to tank, but Marjorie doesn't see it that way. She sends out a weekly newsletter celebrating the new, calmer office environment. She praises the reduction in disruptive social behaviors and highlights the importance of our journey toward a safer workplace. She has no idea that the calm is not peace, it's fear. There's this one woman in the marketing department, Ruby. Ruby was always a bit of a social climber, not particularly talented at her job, but very good at office politics. She's the kind of person who uses corporate jargon in the casual conversation and thinks it makes her sound smart. Before Marjorie, nobody really took her seriously. She was just a minor annoyance. Now, in this new environment, she's thriving. She becomes Marjorie's unofficial lieutenant. Ruby is suddenly very vocal in meetings. If a male colleague disagrees with one of her ideas, she'll sigh dramatically and say something like, "I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't use such an aggressive tone with me." The man will immediately back down, apologizing, even if his tone was perfectly normal. She starts interrupting men when they're speaking, and if they try to finish their sentence, she'll hold up a hand and say, "Please, let the woman in the room finish her thought." Marjorie, who sometimes sits in on these meetings, will nod in approval. Ruby is a brave voice. Most of us just learn to avoid her. It's easier than navigating the minefield of a conversation with her. I keep my head down, as always. My job requires me to collaborate with a few other engineers. One of them is a woman named Judith. Judith is like me. She's here to work. She's a no-nonsense, highly competent database administrator. She sees the new office dynamic for what it is. One afternoon, we're the last two in our section of the office. She rolls her chair over to my desk. She speaks in a low voice. "This is completely insane, right? It's not just me." I just nod. It's a relief to know someone else gets it. She says the new policy is not only unfair, it's insulting to women. It paints them as fragile children who can't handle a normal workplace interaction. It assumes they're all helpless victims who are incapable of lying or making mistakes. We talk for a few minutes about how much harder it's become to get anything done. How simple 5-minute conversations now take a dozen emails to accomplish. It's a brief moment of sanity in the middle of the madness. It doesn't last. A few months into Marjorie's reign, the lead engineer on my team announces he's leaving. He got a better offer at another company. Privately, he tells a few of us that he just can't work under this new policy. He has a wife and kids, a mortgage. He can't risk having his entire career and life destroyed by a single baseless accusation. His departure creates a power vacuum. The lead engineer position is a big deal. It comes with a significant raise, more responsibility, and a real say in the technical direction of our projects. Everyone in the department knows I'm the logical choice to replace him. I've been on the team the longest, I've mentored junior developers, and I designed the architecture for our 2 most profitable products. My manager pulls me aside and tells me the job is mine to lose. Just go through the formal application process, and it should be a slam dunk. I update my internal resume and submit my application the same day the posting goes live. I'm feeling pretty good about it. For the first time in months, it feels like merit might still matter in this place. Then, a week later, the list of internal applicants gets posted, as is company policy. There are 2 names on it, mine and Ruby's. I literally laugh when I see it. It has to be a joke. Ruby works in marketing. She has 0 technical background. I'm not even sure she knows what a variable is. Her job is to write blog posts about our products, not to build them. I walk over to Judith's desk. "Did you see who else applied for the lead position?" I ask. She's already looking at the list on her monitor. She just shakes her head in disbelief. "She can't be serious," Judith says. "She doesn't meet a single one of the qualifications in the job description." "Maybe she clicked the wrong button," I suggest, trying to find a rational explanation. "No," Judith says, her eyes narrowing. "She's serious. And you know who she's been having lunch with every day for the past 2 weeks?" I don't have to guess. Marjorie. A sick feeling starts to form in the pit of my stomach. Suddenly, this isn't funny anymore. The interview process is a farce. My interview is with my own manager and the VP of engineering. It's a formality. We spend an hour talking about my vision for the team, future projects, and technical challenges. It feels more like a strategy session than an interview. At the end, my manager basically winks and says, "We'll be in touch." I know I've got it. But then I hear about Ruby's interview. She didn't interview with the engineering department. Her interview was a closed-door meeting with the VP of engineering and Marjorie. This is completely against protocol. HR is supposed to be a neutral party in the hiring process, not an active participant in the interviews, for a technical role they know nothing about. The other engineers on my team are buzzing about it. Everyone knows this is wrong. The decision is supposed to be announced on a Friday. All week, the tension is thick. Ruby walks around the office with an air of smug confidence. She's already acting like she runs the department. She starts making suggestions in our team's communication channel about our workflow inefficiencies and how we need to be more agile in our creative process. It's just a stream of meaningless buzzwords she clearly picked up from a management seminar. We all just ignore her. I try to put it out of my mind and focus on my work. The system is based on merit. My qualifications speak for themselves. The VP of engineering is a reasonable guy. He wouldn't let HR bully him into making a disastrous hiring decision. He just wouldn't. Friday morning arrives. The email lands in my inbox at 10 a.m. sharp. The subject line, "Announcing our new lead engineer." My heart is pounding. This is it. The validation of years of hard work. I open the email. It's a long, glowing announcement. It talks about the company's commitment to thinking outside the box and bringing in diverse perspectives to technical roles. It praises the chosen candidate for her bold vision and passion for collaborative success. And then I see the name. The new lead engineer for my team is Ruby. I feel like I've been punched in the gut. I just stare at the screen, unable to process what I'm reading. It can't be real. This is a company that builds complex software, not a book club. You can't put someone in charge of the engineering team who doesn't know how to code. It's like making the guy who paints the planes the head of aeronautical engineering. It's not just unfair, it's suicidal for the business. I look up from my monitor. Across the office, I can see the other engineers reading the same email. Their faces are a mixture of shock, confusion, and disgust. Judith catches my eye from her desk. She just shakes her head slowly, her expression grim. Ruby is standing near the marketing department, holding her phone. She has a wide, triumphant smirk on her face. She looks over at the engineering section, directly at me, and her smirk widens. It's a look of pure, unadulterated victory. She didn't just want the job, she wanted me to lose it. My manager comes over to my desk a few minutes later. He looks ashamed. He won't make eye contact with me. He mumbles something about how the decision came from way above him and how his hands were tied. He says Marjorie made a very strong case for Ruby, arguing that promoting another man would reinforce the existing patriarchal power structure in the tech department. She argued that Ruby's emotional intelligence and fresh perspective were more valuable than my outdated technical skills. My manager tells me he fought it, but Marjorie went over his head, straight to the CEO. She convinced the CEO that this was a bold and necessary move for the company's public image. So that's it. My years of dedication, my expertise, my proven track record, all thrown out the window for the sake of appearances. I feel a rage building inside me that I haven't felt in a very long time. But I keep it together. I just nod and say, I understand. What else is there to say? The rest of the day is a blur. I can't focus on work. I just sit there, staring at my screen, the email burning in my mind. The betrayal is what hurts the most. I thought I was part of a team, working toward a common goal, But I was wrong. I was just a pawn in someone else's ideological game. As I'm packing up my bag to leave for the day, I see Judith walking towards me. She looks furious. "Don't let them get away with this, Ernest," she says quietly but intensely. "What am I supposed to do?" I reply, my voice hollow. "The decision is made." "This isn't a decision. It's a declaration of war on competence," she says. Ruby celebrated too loudly. I heard something. She tells me she was in the break room when Ruby came in with a couple of her friends from marketing. Ruby was gloating. She was laughing about how easy it was. She said, "He never stood a chance. Marjorie had my back from the start." Then she said the part that made my blood run cold. One of her friends asked if she was worried about not knowing anything about the job. Ruby just laughed and said, "I'll just make Ernest do all the real work. If he refuses, I'll just tell Marjorie he's creating a hostile environment for me. What's he going to do? Who are they going to believe?" I go home that Friday, feeling like I'm in a daze. The weekend is a write-off. I just sit in my apartment, replaying what Judith told me over and over again in my head. She's going to make me do her work, and if I refuse, she'll ruin my life. It's a perfect trap. There's no way out. If I go to HR, I'm a man complaining about a woman. Marjorie will see it as me trying to preemptively silence Ruby. If I do her work for her, I become her subordinate. I'll be doing my job and the lead engineer's job, while she takes the credit and the salary. If I refuse, she pulls the trigger. My first instinct is to just quit, just walk away from the whole mess. But I've been with this company for almost 8 years. I have vested stock options, I have a good salary. Finding a new job at this level isn't something you do overnight. And more than that, it feels wrong to be forced out by someone like Ruby. Why should I be the one to lose everything because she's a manipulative snake? By Sunday night, I have a plan, or at least the beginnings of one. I'm not going to quit, and I'm not going to be her workhorse. I'm going to be meticulously, painfully professional. I will do my job, and only my job. I will be polite, formal, and distant. And I will document everything, every conversation, every email, every meeting request. I buy a new notebook and start a log, date, time, interaction, and a summary of what was said. It feels a little paranoid, but I know what's coming. I need to be ready. Monday morning is a nightmare. Ruby calls a team kickoff meeting at 9 a.m. We all file into the conference room. She's standing at the front by the whiteboard, holding a marker. She spends the first 20 minutes talking about her vision for the team. It's an incoherent word salad of marketing buzzwords. We need to leverage our core competencies to create a more dynamic synergy. Let's blue sky some disruptive innovations. She's not saying anything. It's just noise. Then she tries to talk about our current project. It's immediately obvious she hasn't read a single line of the project documentation. She keeps getting technical terms wrong. She calls a database a data cloud and refers to the backend API as the magic box. The junior developers are looking at each other, trying not to laugh. The senior guys just have dead eyes. I just sit there, silent, taking notes. After her monologue, she turns to the team. "So, what are the current action items and deliverables?" The room is silent. That's her job. As the lead, she's supposed to know that. She's supposed to set the action items. Finally, one of the other senior guys speaks up and gives her a brief, simple overview of our current sprint. She nods like she understands, but her eyes are blank. The meeting ends after an hour. We accomplished nothing. We actually went backwards because now we're all confused about her expectations. This becomes the new normal. Ruby's days consist of 3 things: attending meetings she doesn't understand, delegating tasks that are her responsibility, and writing long, rambling emails about team culture and empowerment. She is a black hole of productivity. She starts trying to get me to do her work almost immediately. It starts small. She'll send me a message. "Ernest, can you quickly whip up a summary of our Q3 technical debt for me? I'm swamped," I reply politely. "Hi, Ruby. I'm currently focused on ticket number 742, which is a high-priority bug fix. The data you're looking for can be generated using the standard Jira reporting tool. Let me know if you need the link to the documentation." I log the exchange in my notebook. She doesn't reply, but a few minutes later, I see her ask one of the junior developers the same question. He, eager to please the new boss, spends the next 2 hours doing it for her. She gets more brazen. A week later, she has to give a presentation to the VP of engineering about our project timeline. This is a huge part of the lead's job. The day before the presentation, she walks over to my desk. "Ernest, I need you to build out the slide deck for tomorrow's meeting," she says, not even phrasing it as a question. "I'm not familiar with the presentation requirements," I say calmly, not looking up from my code. "That's something the lead usually handles." "I'm the lead, and I'm telling you to do it," she says, her voice taking on a sharper edge. "My current workload is at capacity with the tasks assigned to me," I reply, my eyes still on my screen. "I won't be able to get to it." I can feel her staring at the back of my head. The whole department is quiet, listening. After a long, tense moment, she huffs and walks away. The next day, she gives the presentation. It's a disaster. The slides are a mess, and she can't answer any of the VP's technical questions. He looks visibly annoyed. I feel a small sense of satisfaction. Maybe this will all blow over. Maybe they'll see how incompetent she is and fix their mistake. I am, of course, completely wrong. Her public failure doesn't chasten her. It infuriates her. She now sees me as the one who embarrassed her. I am the problem. The trap is about to be sprung. It happens a few days later. It's late in the afternoon. I get an email. It's from Marjorie. The subject is meeting to discuss a workplace matter. It requests my presence in her office in 15 minutes. My blood runs cold. This is it. I take a deep breath. I grab my notebook. I log out of my computer and walk towards the HR office. My heart is hammering against my ribs. The HR office is on a different floor, in a quiet corner of the building. It always feels like walking to the principal's office. Marjorie's door is closed. I knock. Her voice tells me to come in. I open the door, and the scene is exactly what I expected. Marjorie is sitting behind her large, sterile desk. She has a grim, official expression on her face. Sitting in one of the chairs in front of her desk is Ruby. Her face is red and blotchy, and she's dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. She's putting on the performance of a lifetime. She looks at me as I walk in, then quickly looks away, as if she can't bear to see me. "Close the door, Ernest," Marjorie says. Her tone is icy. I close the door behind me. There's an empty chair next to Ruby. I don't take it. I remain standing. "Ruby has come to me with some very serious allegations about your behavior," Marjorie begins, folding her hands on the desk. She doesn't look at me. She's looking at a file in front of her, my employee file. "She has reported a pattern of intimidating and hostile actions on your part, creating an environment where she feels unsafe and unable to do her job." I wait for her to continue, to give me specifics. She doesn't. I look at Ruby. She's refusing to make eye contact, just staring at the tissue in her hands. "I don't understand," I say, my voice steady. "Can you provide a specific example of this behavior?" Marjorie finally looks up at me. Her eyes are full of contempt. "We are not going to put the victim on trial here, Ernest," she says, reciting the line I knew was coming. "Ruby has described a consistent pattern of aggression. Your dismissive tone, your refusal to collaborate, your use of condescending language. It's all part of a campaign to undermine her authority because you can't handle a woman in a position of power. So that's the narrative. I'm not a disgruntled employee who was unfairly passed over for a promotion. I'm a misogynist who can't take orders from a woman. It's cleaner that way, simpler. My mind is racing. This is a he said, she said situation, and they've already decided who he and she are. That's not true, I say. All of my interactions with Ruby have been professional. I have a log of our communications. I hold up my notebook. Marjorie scoffs, a literal audible scoff. "You keeping a log on your female manager is, frankly, classic intimidating behavior," she says. "It's what perpetrators do to build a false narrative. I am in a completely circular logic trap. Any evidence I have of my innocence is reframed as evidence of my guilt." Ruby, seeing that Marjorie has everything under control, lets out a small, theatrical sob. "He just makes me feel so stupid all the time," she whimpers. "He uses all these technical words I don't know, and I know he's just doing it to make me feel small." This is the most absurd thing I've ever heard. I'm an engineer. I use technical words because that's the language of my job. "Ruby," I say, trying to keep my voice calm. "My job is technical. I have to use technical language to describe the work we do." "You see," Ruby says, looking at Marjorie with wide, tear-filled eyes. "He's doing it again." Marjorie holds up a hand to silence me. That's enough, Ernest. I've heard all I need to hear. She picks up the phone on her desk. Yes, security? I need an escort for an employee from my office to their desk, and then out of the building. Thank you. She hangs up the phone. The finality of it hits me like a physical blow. Effective immediately, you are suspended from your duties pending the completion of our investigation, she says, reading from a script now. During your suspension, you are not to have any contact with any employees of this company. You are not to access any company property or systems. A decision regarding your future employment will be made in due course. It's all just corporate speak for, you're fired, but we're going to drag it out to make it look like we did our jobs. There's a knock at the door. It's a security guard, a big guy I've seen at the front desk. He looks as uncomfortable as I feel. Marjorie gestures to the door. Please collect your personal items, and then security will escort you out. Ruby stays seated, watching me. The fake tears are gone. Her eyes are cold and hard. She won. I don't say another word. There's no point. I turn and walk out of the office, the guard following a few steps behind me. The walk back to my desk is the longest walk of my life. It's a big, open-plan office. Everyone can see me. Everyone can see the security guard trailing me. Heads pop up over cubicle walls. Conversations stop mid-sentence. I can feel hundreds of eyes on me. I get to my desk. My hands are shaking slightly as I open my drawer to get my things. A coffee mug my sister gave me, a picture of my dog, the headphones I use to block out the world. I don't have a box. I just cradle the items in my arms. I look up and see Judith. She's standing by her desk, her face pale with shock and rage. She understands exactly what's happening. Most of the other faces are just confused. Some look away, embarrassed. A few of Ruby's friends from marketing are watching with barely concealed glee. I've been tried, convicted, and sentenced in the space of 10 minutes. And now, I'm being publicly shamed. The guard walks with me to the elevator. We ride down to the lobby in silence. He swipes his card to let me out the front doors. Sorry, man, he mutters as I step outside. The glass doors slide shut behind me. I'm standing on the sidewalk in the middle of a workday, holding a coffee mug and a picture frame. My access card is disabled. My career is in ruins. My name has been dragged through the mud, all because of a lie. I get home and collapse onto my couch. The adrenaline wears off and a deep, crushing despair sets in. What do I do now? How do I even start to explain this? If I apply for a new job, what do I say when they ask why I left my last one? I was suspended under suspicion of harassing my manager. Who would ever hire me after that? My reputation is gone. My 8 years of hard work have been erased. I feel completely and utterly alone. I spend the next day in a fog. I don't answer my phone. I don't check my email. I just sit there, staring at the walls. The silence is deafening. Then, late in the afternoon, my personal phone buzzes. A text from a number I don't recognize. Ernest, it's Judith. I am so sorry. I went to see Marjorie. It was useless. She wouldn't listen. She accused me of being a traitor to my gender. I am going to the CEO. This is not right, and I am not going to stand by and watch them do this to you. Don't give up. I read the message 3 times. Someone believed me. Someone saw the truth and was willing to fight for it, even at risk to herself. It's like a small candle being lit in a vast, dark room. It's not much, but it's enough to see by. The despair begins to recede, replaced by something else. Anger. A cold, hard, clarifying anger. They thought I would just roll over and die. They thought I would be too ashamed, too broken to fight back. They were wrong. I pick up my phone. I open my web browser. I type in the search bar. Employment lawyer, wrongful termination. Finding a lawyer is a strange experience. You're basically shopping for a professional who will fight for your life. I do a few consultations over the phone. Most of them are what you'd expect. They listen to my story, make some sympathetic noises, and then talk about their retainer fees. But the third lawyer I talk to is different. He's an older guy. His voice is gravelly, and he doesn't waste time with pleasantries. I tell him the whole story. The new HR director, the believe all women policy, the promotion I was denied, the false accusation, the public escort out of the building. I tell him about my logbook and about Judith and what she overheard. He listens to the whole thing without interrupting me once. When I'm finished, there's a long pause on the line. I'm starting to think he hung up. Then he says, Son, they didn't just fire you, they handed you a winning lottery ticket. He explains the legal situation in simple terms. The company didn't just create a hostile environment for men, they codified it. The Believe All Women policy is a corporate-sponsored engine of gender discrimination. My suspension wasn't based on an investigation, it was based on my gender. That's a textbook case of wrongful termination. Ruby's false accusation is defamation, slander. The public walk of shame with the security guard is intentional infliction of emotional distress. He tells me we're not going to just ask for my job back. We're going for the jugular. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I feel a surge of hope. Not just hope, but power. I hire him on the spot. The first thing he does is draft a letter. It's a masterpiece of legal aggression. It lays out the entire case in excruciating detail. It names Marjorie and Ruby specifically. It cites the specific laws the company has broken. And it ends with a number, a very large number. It's the amount of money we are demanding in damages to avoid a public, protracted, and very ugly lawsuit. He tells me the letter is a shot across their bow. They can either pay to make this go away quietly, he says, or they can get dragged through the mud in open court. Their choice. He sends the letter via registered mail to the CEO's office. Now, all we can do is wait. Meanwhile, inside the company, Judith is making her own moves. She tells me later what happened. After her disastrous meeting with Marjorie, she didn't give up. She went home that night and wrote a long, detailed email. She sent it directly to the CEO. She laid out the entire timeline of events just as she saw them. The announcement of the promotion, Ruby's open jealousy, the conversation she overheard in the break room where Ruby plotted to get me, the blatant incompetence Ruby displayed as a team lead, Marjorie's refusal to listen to any evidence that contradicted her narrative, my public humiliation. She ended the email with a simple, powerful statement. I have worked for this company for 6 years. I have always believed it to be a place that values integrity and fairness. What has happened to Ernest is a stain on that reputation. It is not only morally wrong, it is a catastrophic business decision that has destroyed the morale of your entire engineering department. I urge you to investigate this matter personally before it is too late. She hits send. The CEO is an older guy, the founder of the company. He's a smart businessman, but he'd become a bit disconnected from the day-to-day operations. He hired people like Marjorie to handle the people stuff, so he could focus on the big picture. He trusted them to be competent. Judith's email is a wake-up call. It's from a trusted long-term employee. It's detailed, factual, and devoid of emotion. It's an alarm bell he can't ignore. And then, the very next morning, my lawyer's letter lands on his desk. Suddenly, it's not just an internal HR issue anymore. It's a multi-million-dollar legal crisis. The CEO, I'm told, moved faster than anyone had ever seen him move before. He immediately calls an emergency meeting. The attendees are himself, the company's top legal counsel, Marjorie, Ruby, and Judith. The atmosphere in the CEO's conference room must have been electric. The CEO starts the meeting by placing 2 documents on the table, Judith's email and my lawyer's demand letter. He looks at Marjorie. "Explain this to me," he says, his voice dangerously quiet. Marjorie, arrogant as ever, tries to take control. She launches into her usual speech about creating a safe environment, about the importance of believing victims, about how my lawyer's letter is just another example of male intimidation tactics. The company lawyer cuts her off. He turns to Ruby. "It's Ruby's last name," he says, his tone like ice. "In this letter, Mr. Ernest alleges that you willfully and maliciously fabricated a story about his behavior in order to have him removed from his position. Is that an accurate summary?" Ruby, who is used to being protected by Marjorie, is visibly flustered by the direct legal questioning. He was very aggressive towards me," she stammers. "Aggressive in what way?" the lawyer presses. "Did he touch you? Did he threaten you? Did he raise his voice?" "He used a tone," she says weakly, "and he refused to help me with my work." The lawyer stares at her. "He refused to do your job for you, so you filed a harassment complaint to have him fired. Is that correct?" Ruby's face turns pale. This isn't going the way she planned. The CEO then turns to Judith. "Judith, tell me what you heard." Judith calmly and clearly recounts the conversation she overheard. She repeats Ruby's gloating words verbatim. If he refuses, I'll just tell Marjorie he's creating a hostile environment for me. Who are they going to believe? The lawyer turns back to Ruby. Ms., Ruby's last name, are you aware of the legal definition of perjury? Are you aware that lying in a sworn deposition during a lawsuit can have criminal consequences? Ruby starts to tremble. The entire facade crumbles. She bursts into tears. Real tears this time, tears of panic. Through her sobs, she admits it. She admits she was angry about the promotion. She admits she exaggerated. She admits she knew Marjorie would take her side no matter what she said. She admits she made it all up. The room is silent except for her crying. The CEO just stares at her with a look of pure disgust. Then he turns his gaze to Marjorie. Marjorie is in a state of shock. Her face is ashen. Her entire worldview, her entire professional identity, has just been detonated in front of her. Her star victim just confessed to being a liar and a manipulator. The system she created wasn't a shield for the vulnerable. It was a weapon for the malicious. The CEO doesn't even raise his voice. Marjorie, he says, pack your desk. You have 1 hour. A security guard will be with you. He looks at the head of security, who was standing by the door. Please escort Ms. Ruby's last name out of the building. Her employment is terminated, effective immediately. Make sure she understands that the company is reserving all rights to pursue its own legal action against her for the damages she has caused. Ruby is led out of the room, sobbing hysterically. Marjorie just sits there, stunned into silence. Her career is over. She's not just fired, she's a pariah. No company will ever hire an HR director who created a policy that led to a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. The resolution for me comes quickly after that. The company's lawyers call my lawyer. They don't even try to negotiate. They agree to the full amount in the demand letter. It's a life-changing sum of money, enough to never have to worry about a paycheck again. They also draft a formal letter of apology, signed by the CEO himself. In the letter, they offer me my job back, with the promotion to lead engineer, plus a raise. My lawyer advises me to take the money and the apology, but to politely decline the job offer. You can never trust them again, son, he says. They didn't do this because it was the right thing to do. They did this because it was the cheapest option. He's right. I accept the settlement. The money is wired to my account. The official story for my departure is a voluntary resignation with a generous severance package. My record is clean. The final act of this whole drama plays out over the next few weeks. The CEO sends a company-wide memo. It announces that Marjorie is no longer with the company. It announces the immediate and permanent rescission of the Trust and Safety Initiative. The memo states that all future workplace complaints will be subject to a thorough, impartial, and evidence-based investigation, with a presumption of innocence for all parties involved until the facts are established. The reign of terror is over. Judith tells me the atmosphere in the office changed overnight. It was like a spell had been broken. People started talking to each other again. The fear was gone, but the damage was done. The company got a reputation. The story, without naming names, leaked onto tech industry message boards. Top talent stopped applying. Several of our best male engineers, the ones who had been quietly looking for new jobs ever since the policy was announced, resigned in the following months. The company survived, but it was wounded. It lost money, talent, and respect. All because one person was allowed to push their toxic ideology onto an entire organization. As for me, I take a few months off. I decompress. I spend time with my dog. The anger fades, and what's left is a kind of weary wisdom. I learned a hard lesson about the modern workplace. It's not always a meritocracy. Sometimes it's a battlefield of ideas, and if you're not prepared, you can become a casualty. I eventually get a new job at a smaller, saner company. The interview process is focused entirely on my technical skills. Nobody asks me about my feelings or my lived experience. It's refreshing. I still talk to Judith. We grab lunch every now and then. She's the real hero of the story. She had nothing to gain and everything to lose by standing up for me, but she did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. It reminds me that there are still good, principled people out there. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Marjorie and Ruby. I don't feel anger towards them anymore. I just feel a kind of pity. They were so consumed by their ideology of grievance and victimhood that they became the very monsters they claimed to be fighting. They saw toxic masculinity in a quiet man who just wanted to do his job. They saw oppression and competence. In the end, their system didn't empower women. It empowered one toxic woman to destroy an innocent man's career for her own selfish gain. And in doing so, she brought the whole rotten structure crashing down on top of everyone. They got their believe all women policy, and it cost them everything.